unreinforced masonry, right?
That's correct. This is an unreinforced masonry building built maybe between the turn of the century to the 1920s. And even though some of the exterior may have been redone and looked relatively new, the underneath portion of the structure is still unreinforced. The exterior walls, as you can see, are totally crumbled, exposing the interior rooms of the structure.
And here on this side, it is the same situation where the wall on the second story of this building has completely fallen down, or almost completely, to the ground. And you can just see all the bricks and the rubble. And what was this over here?
This was some sort of tin building that's been totally demolished due to the earthquake.
Well, this is a real kind of living lesson in the dangers of unreinforced masonry, isn't it?
Well, that's correct, and that's part of the problem with some of our older communities, such as you'll find in the Santa Clara Valley. Structures such as this are something that are of concern to emergency personnel, because when the earth begins to shake, these are the ones that are going to cause the problems.
So that is a situation here in Fillmore with the Fillmore Hotel is what it's called. You can see that we're very, very lucky. Thank you very much, Tony. That no one was hurt during the earthquake. It's really rather amazing when you look at the damage up on the second floor. Where these bedrooms are, because again, there were people in here at the time of the earthquake, but no one hurt. This is a Fillmore Hotel in the town of Fillmore. I'm Wendy Takuda. Back to you.
All right, Wendy, thank you very much. Right now, we're live with Captain Bob over the Santa Clarita area, and you can certainly see some of the damage we talked about today. This is a water main break in that area. Captain Bob, do you hear us?
I do. I hear you, Colleen. I'm not sure that we've got a water main break. These appear to be valves. So if they have been opened on purpose, we'll have to determine why they were opened on purpose. If in fact the valves have broken and are spewing the water, then indeed it is a break. But it doesn't look like the classic break of rupture that we first had reported to us. Again, this is just about a half a mile to the east of the Saugus Speedway out here in Canyon Country, just to the north of Sierra Highway. So maybe some of our assignment desk people can check and see if this is being done on purpose to alleviate pressure on the pipeline for repairs down the line or whatever. But it's dumping into the Santa Clarita River. Obviously no harm to the environment as it goes downriver, but they appear to be coming from 3 different valves at this location just east of the Saugus Speedway. So apparently not a break, but we'll have to confirm that for later. This is Bob Petty reporting live from the Channel 4 helicopter over Saugus. Back to you in the studio.
Bob, we'll get to work on that right now, but it would make sense as you zoom in there. You're right, it does not look like a break, and we had some information earlier from the DWP that there was an aqueduct problem up there, so they may be trying to lessen the load further upstream.
Yeah, we're going to move right now up to Newhall, where we understand some more people are moving outside for the evening. You're going to see the helicopter come in between the camera shot and the water. We're going to go back up here in the Newhall Pass and see if we can find that tent city that's setting up. If we do, we'll get that picture to you then.
Okay, Bob, you talk about tent city. We understand as many as 15,000 people in the Los Angeles area may have been displaced by the earthquake today, and the number continues to grow.
And you got to keep in mind the sun's going down. The temperatures are starting to drop. These people are going to be in pretty bad shape in a little while.
Absolutely.
Trying to get them some clothes and some shelter. We'll keep you up to date on that. We also want to let you know that just about a minute ago, there was a news conference that started with the mayor and the governor. They are discussing a dusk to dawn curfew that is going to go into effect. We'll be bringing you up to date on that as well pretty soon.
In the meantime, we have seen lines at supermarkets, at gas stations this afternoon. Let's go to our Diane Diaz, who is at one of the supermarkets now where people think there's a shortage of food. Diane?
Colleen, take a look at this. This is the Ralph's supermarket in Panorama City, and literally hundreds of people are standing in line waiting to buy their provisions, trying to stock up on what they can. What they need right now is water, batteries, and basic food supplies. We've seen them coming in here for quite some time. If we go to the tape right now, we can show you what this scene looked like right at 4 o'clock when the store opened. There were really hundreds of people waiting in line, a line the full distance of the store. So right when this store opened at 4 o'clock, it was one of the first grocery stores opened in the San Fernando Valley. There was a crowd here, and they stocked up on these kinds of things. They emptied the shelves virtually of charcoal right away. That's to barbecue things. If they're out of gas, they're going to need charcoal to cook some of the meats that are now defrosting in those freezers that have no power. Charcoal and water, some of the hottest items leaving the Ralph's supermarket, but this market didn't get away unscathed. Look at the mess. They have the floors all a mess here. Many of the things actually fell off the shelves, but the store was quite in a rush to get this store open again, and so they did reopen it just a short time ago, 4 o'clock, and there are really hundreds of people in here right now. Coming back live, we'll talk to a couple of those people. Kilani Hutchinson is originally from Hawaii, your first earthquake. What do you think you need now?
Lots of water. I've got charcoal, and I'm going for fruits and cheese and stuff like that. Plus,
Do you really feel that there's a need to stock up right now? So many people appear to be panicked about this.
actually, I'm not stocking up because I live by myself. If I had a family with me, yes, I would be stocking up.
Okay,
But
thank
I'm
you very
pretty
much.
much what I
George Avila, what about you? A lot of people seem to be in a rush to get to the market, buy things. What about yourself?
Well, I kind of take things in stride. But I have 2 small children, and I do need water. So that's what I'm focusing on, water. And I have the rest of the things that I need at home.
Okay. Back now at the Ralph's Supermarket in Panorama City, we can tell you that there are so many people in here that it doesn't appear that even if they tried, they could get all of these people checked out before this curfew that we hear about now, the dusk to dawn curfew. People are really wall to wall in here, still shopping, still standing in line. Reporting live from Panorama City, I'm Diane Diaz. Let's take it back to the studio. Colleen?
Yeah, Diane, you raised a good point there. In fact, a spokesman for the California Grocers Association said late this afternoon that there really is no reason for people to be panicking right now.
The
There is
Grocers
no-
Association says it,
Yeah.
and so does the State Emergency Management Office. They say there's really no reason for this. They don't see any kind of catastrophe coming on, especially now that we've been through the biggest of the quakes, so it seems. And so they say it is really unnecessary. Those of you watching this, you don't have to be here.
Yeah, we're also getting late word that the supermarket chains and the wholesalers are going to be delivering throughout the night, so the stores should be well stocked tomorrow morning as well.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
The only problem they should have is getting into Los Angeles on the
exactly.
major thoroughfares. We're going to switch live. Again, this is the Newhall Pass area. This is Old San Fernando Road. It looks like traffic is finally moving in that area. It was at a standstill for most of the afternoon. On the right side of your screen, you're looking at Kate Hutton from Caltech, and I believe we're going to turn up her audio here and listen in. She's talking about some of the strong aftershocks we felt this afternoon, specifically the one at 3:33, downgraded now to 5.3.
p.m. I have a 4.4, and at 4:43 p.m. I have a 5.0. And okay, well, I was under the impression that it was 5.5, but I am not always the most up to date on the exact magnitudes of these things, so I will have to check on.
So
it.
we have a
Yes.
5.5 at 3:33.
Right.
And then please read the last 3 major aftershocks.
Okay, the two that we felt here within the last hour, at 4:39 p.m. 4.4, and at 4:43 p.m. 5.0.
Does the 5.5 then, Dr. Hutton, tell us that we've gotten past that threshold, that we felt the biggest aftershock we're going to feel?
Well, it's a good possibility, but we can't say for sure, because the way aftershocks decay, they become less frequent with time. But the magnitude is a coin toss. I mean, you could get the most of the aftershocks are very small. Most of them are 2s, but there is still a chance of getting all the different magnitudes. And
What
you
about
know,
more 5.0s? What about more 5.0s?
I think to be on the safe side, we should assume that there's a possibility of another 5.0. Even the probability is probably less than 50% at this point.
But over what period of time? Are we talking weeks, days?
Well, the original estimate of 50% chance of a magnitude 5 aftershock that applied at noon today was for a week.
So it's
And we've certainly satisfied that criterion, but the aftershock sequence is not over. So I don't
on the
think
right-hand side, or
we
actually
cannot
full
say
screen
we
right
just
now, you're
had
looking
that
at a
one,
park
so we
in the
will not
Newhall area as we listen to Kate Hutton in the background there from Caltech. This is what we're seeing all over the Los Angeles area right now. We understand as many as 15,000 people have been displaced by this earthquake overnight. A lot of people simply afraid to go back into their houses. Not only are they finding shelter in the tents and parks like this, but there's certainly some camaraderie. So psychologically, it's comforting to be with other families, other people in the same situation.
And this is one of those people stories that we've been talking about all day. Certainly there's the damage and the ferocity of the earthquake itself. But this is one of those stories that, one of the sidebar stories. The people some of these people are probably afraid to go back into their homes right now because of the aftershocks we've been having. Some of these people may feel a lot safer being out here, and certainly those people who are not in this type of a situation may want to step forward and lend a hand to some of these folks. It's getting cold out there. It's getting dark. No doubt that a lot of these people could use some help right now.
We have seen a lot of that today, Rick. what you see in a situation like this is community and people coming together and helping out. We have not seen many cases of looting, the bad side of all of this, but there have been a few. We understand as the National Guard, 1,000 National Guard troops have been called out to help out in a situation like that. Now, I believe the next thing we're going to do is switch live to Parker Center. Our Jim Giggins is down there with the mayor, Mayor Reardon, Chief Willie Williams, and LA City Fire Chief Donald Manning, and they're going to talk about the curfew this evening. We understand they have imposed one in the city of San Fernando. This is a dusk to dawn curfew. Let's go to Jim Giggins now.
What is going to happen here is the police chief and the mayor.
Apparently we're having some trouble with his audio there as we switch back to the New Hall area. Once again, let's go to Jim Giggins downtown. Jim?
We're here downtown waiting for Police Chief Willie Williams and, of course, Mayor Richard Reardon. The mayor expected to announce a dusk to dawn curfew. That should happen in just a few moments. He'll have with him some other city officials to talk about this emergency in Los Angeles and to explain the curfew, to explain also what people are expected to do with no homes. Some of them lost their homes, having to go to other places to find relatives and loved ones. That all will be explained apparently in just the next few minutes. There is a concern about looting. There is a concern about city safety. There is a concern, as a matter of fact, about police presence, the police being able to do something to protect the city during this emergency. Consequently, this special news conference has been called for 5 o'clock. They're running a little bit late. We expect them to come here, and when they do, we'll come back to you and give it all to you live. This is Jim Giggins reporting live from City Hall, downtown Los Angeles. Back to you in the studio.
We should stress that the looting problems that Jim was talking about were on a very, very limited scale. There were some store windows that were broken downtown, some in Hollywood. Some people were seen going in. They were grabbed immediately by the local police officers, and apparently that's been put down pretty quick. But still, the opportunity is there, obviously.
We should mention as well, Transportation Secretary Federico Pena and other transportation officials will be holding a news conference in just a few minutes to discuss the quake damage. The Federal Aviation Administration duty officer says they're actually in a chopper right now touring the earthquake area, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But in the meantime, we're going to switch back to Jim Avila, who's in the Northridge area, the site of that apartment complex where 15 people have now been found dead. Jim?
Behind me, as you can see, the LA Fire Department is beginning, LA County Fire Department is beginning a briefing. And let's just stick our microphone in here.
Earlier in the day, we have been able to identify through 3 separate searches of the structure throughout the course of the day, 14 persons lost their lives in the building. At the present time, 9 of those 14 bodies have been removed and taken from the premises by the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office. What you're seeing going on here right now, and for about the last hour and a half, is something that began back in the summer of 1991 when the federal government, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, elected to partially sponsor 25 urban search and rescue teams throughout the nation. Because of the tremendous earthquake potential we have here in the state, we have 8 teams here in the state of California. Now, the one urban search and rescue team that you see here today is from the Los Angeles County Fire Department, and they're here at the direction of the federal government. Although we've made 3 previous searches of the building, it was done by firefighters working with the training that they have and the tools that they have on their fire engines and fire trucks. The team that has arrived here from the county is a 56-member team comprised of 4 different components. They have a search component, which utilizes canine and electronic searching devices. They have a rescue component, which has personnel trained in heavy rescue and equipment, cutting tools, heavy lifting equipment to assist in the extrication of persons from collapsed structures. They also have a medical component. Oftentimes, and as was the case earlier today, we'll begin paramedic intervention on a patient actually before he or she is removed and freed from the structure. Also included in the team is a technical component. The technical component maintains the readiness of all the tools and equipment and what have you that they bring with them. The team is self-sufficient for no less than 72 hours. Again, there are 8 teams in California, 1 working right here at the scene, and there are 2 more teams in the immediate vicinity should their need arise. can take any questions you have at this time.
We're live on Channel 4. Can you tell us now, do you believe still that there are people inside the building? And if there are, where might they be?
It's hard to answer that yes or no. If they're in the building, they're most likely on the first floor, which has been compressed by the second and third floors above. Again, as I said earlier, the search team, the urban search and rescue team that's on the scene right now, has canines that are trained in live find search. They also have electronic sounding devices which can pick up even the very almost unnoticeable breath of a living person. We won't know until they complete a thorough technical search using their canines and their electronic listening devices if we have anyone left inside.
Where were the previous bodies found? Where were the previous bodies found?
What would your gut feeling be about it, any survivors? I can't venture one. I just can't venture one.
Where were the previous bodies found?
As far as I know, they were all on the first floor, all 14.
Is there a number of people unaccounted for?
Don't know that just yet. Don't have those kinds of numbers just yet.
Are there any live victims that you're working specifically on right now?
Not at this moment. We're implementing the electronic and canine search, and if we find them, we'll go right to work on it.
Have you identified any live victims who are
At the present
trapped?
time, no. We did earlier today. We spent several hours getting one patient out.
So as you know,
That patient was removed from the building at about noon and transported to a local hospital.
there are no more cries for help. You don't know of anybody who is alive and trapped.
Doing what we'd call a manual search throughout the day on 3 separate occasions. We've got no other life signs from the structure.
How long of a search do you expect? How long do you expect this search to take?
It'll take until morning.
Again, the count is 15.
14 confirmed. 14 confirmed dead. We've removed 9 of the bodies from the structure.
What's the status of the building next door? The building next door?
That
There's a
certainly
sizable amount of
clarifies something
structural
we have
damage to
here.
that
We
building,
had,
but it did not suffer the
reports
same
there were
kind of
15
collapse
people
as the
dead
one to the
within that
south.
apartment complex. But listening to the chief there, it is 14. The number is 14 at that complex in Northridge that collapsed this morning.
And there's always the chance that the total may go up. You heard the firefighter talking about the fact that they're still trying to complete that thorough technical search, as he called it. They have dogs in there that are sniffing around. They have electronic devices that are being lowered into some of the rubble. Firefighter said they are they're so good that they could pick up somebody breathing down underneath the rubble. So until that thorough technical search, as he called it, is done, we may not know for sure exactly how many people.
And as we've seen, this is a very slow, tedious, and precise search. As he mentioned, it's a manual search. They literally have to do it piecemeal, checking over the area. These are teams called USERTs, Urban Search and Rescue Teams. Let's listen back in and see what the chief has to say.
Regular police K9, and I think we'll be glad to put them to work tonight.
There are reports that some of the beams in this building were rotting before this happened. Can you confirm that?
Cannot say, I can't comment on that at all.
Can you give us a sense of what it's like inside?
It's a mess. It's a mess.
What do you mean by that? I mean,
Well, the structure behind me here, the first floor is non-existent. Great parts of the building itself. The building shifted 8 or 10 feet to the north when it collapsed, making orientation inside very difficult. It's just a mess.
there's the LA County Fire Department with the latest briefing. Let me move out of the way here because there are some other people we may want to speak with. As a matter of fact, I see the Red Cross over here, and there were some earlier questions we had that we wanted to try to get from the Red Cross.
Let me ask you a quick question here.
do you have
As
a
you're
question?
walking, let me ask you a quick question.
Our communication, I'm afraid, is not working very well.
Can you hear me now, Jim? I guess not. Earlier we had reports that on the first floor, most of the victims were elderly, and I wanted to get a confirmation on that from Jim. Have you heard anything on that, Jim?
That's what we heard. We understood that most of the victims, in fact, were elderly. This apartment complex is populated by both elderly and also Cal State Northridge students. Many of the students, however, live on the upper floor, senior citizens in the bottom floor. Along with me now is spokesman for American Red Cross. Can you tell me what's happening with the people who did survive and got out of the building? How are they getting clothed and fed now?
We have over 10 shelters open at this time. Some of the people have been transported to various shelters. We have a shelter open at the Church of Christ, Sylmar High, San Fernando Recreation Park, the National Armory in Glendale, Salvation Army in Van Nuys, and 4 or 5 other locations. Currently on scene, we have 2 nurses and we also have some medical staff to confront some of the victims and console them.
Some of these people are really traumatized, are they not?
Very traumatized, yes. They say that there was almost 400 people in this building and about 450 in the other building.
Thank you very much. So that's the latest on those who are being rescued and those who are not. And I'll throw it back to you now in the studio. We do have some more information. We'll come back for that later.
All right, Jim Avila, we appreciate it. On the left of your screen there, you see Jim Giggins standing by. He's at Parker Center in downtown Los Angeles. We see Commander Dave Gaskin behind him. I understand the mayor, the police chief, the fire chief are all gathering here for a news conference. Jimmy, why don't
They
you
are
take it
indeed.
from
As a
there?
matter of fact, what they're going to announce in just a few minutes is that there is a curfew in effect in downtown Los Angeles, in Los Angeles as a whole, excuse me. Let's go right now to Mayor Richard Reardon.
Good evening. I'm going to start with some opening remarks regarding the earthquake itself and the city's response to it. It has been just over 12 hours since the quake jolted us awake this morning. When I arrived at the Emergency Operations Center at 5:15 this morning, it was in full operation. To assess the damage, I toured the city with Governor Pete Wilson and other dignitaries of the county and the city. I've also met with Dianne Feinstein, who flew in from Washington to help our efforts, and I am particularly happy for the leadership and support I've gotten from members of the City Council. Also, Supervisors Yvonne Burke and Mike Antonovich have been on board all day, as well as County Sheriff Sherman Block. I spoke to President Clinton this morning. He pledged his full support and said he would call a state of emergency approximately this time today. He has pledged also, and I understand that Secretaries Pena and Cisneros are landing at approximately this time at LAX and will be working with us and with the head of FEMA, James Lee, during the next few days to bring about a quick and meaningful solution to our problems. As we have all seen or heard on the radio, the damage to our city has been extensive. We are not yet able to determine the amount of the financial loss, and this assessment will go on for several days. We've had two extensive meetings of the Emergency Operations Board, chaired by Chief Willie Williams. The exchange of information and potential solutions to the problems makes me very proud to be mayor of this city. The Los Angeles Police Department has been fully deployed with additional help from the sheriffs, and we will soon have help from the National Guard. We've had particularly problems, which the chief will go into, in Ventura Boulevard and the Devonshire area of the valley, and we've had a lot of help from different venues to attack those problems. Acting on the advice of Chief Willie Williams, I've declared a local state of emergency and have issued a directive to initiate a curfew beginning at dusk tonight and concluding at dawn. I would like to read this order to you at this time. Whereas a local emergency now exists within the city of Los Angeles, and the existence of the same has been duly published, now therefore, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Los Angeles, pursuant to the provisions of Los Angeles Administrative Code, Chapter 3, Section 8.29, to promulgate, issue, and enforce rules, regulations, and directives, I hereby declare the following orders to be necessary for the protection of life and property in the city. No person shall be on public property including public streets and sidewalks, or on any vacant private property during the period from sunset until sunrise of the next day. The Community Development Department of the City of Los Angeles shall immediately activate the cold, wet weather sheltering program to provide shelter for residents who have no other place to go between sunset and sunrise of the next day. This order shall not apply to emergency service workers, military personnel on active duty, persons administering emergency aid, or licensed health workers. Each individual officer and the supervisors who approve a curfew booking must use their discretion in enforcing this law and must always keep the intent of the law in mind. I must stress that this is a precautionary measure only that will be reassessed on a daily basis. Now at this time, I would like to call on Chief Willie Williams to make some remarks and give, I think, very meaningful advice to the residents of LA. As I mentioned, Chief Williams is the chairman of the Emergency Operations Board and has done a fantastic job. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. I will try to address in the next few moments some key issues that we want to get out to the public that live in and around the city of Los Angeles, those individuals who may or have to come into the city for business or pleasure. We have been advised that regarding water in the city of Los Angeles, that we can expect to have less than our full service of water for the next several days. It could be as short as 2 or 3 days. It could run as much as a week. The area hardest hit right now will be the area north of Devonshire and west of DeSoto. To compensate for this loss of water for the next few days, water is being distributed at the following locations: Sylmar High School, Kennedy High School, and the Granada Hills High School, and 1 or 2 others, which we will have other city managers mention in the next few minutes. Dealing with the issue of electricity, we can expect that electricity will be out for anywhere from the next 24 to 48 to 72 hours in many parts of our cities. Currently, we are only utilizing about 40% of the amount of electricity that a city would utilize on a day such as this. Again, the area where the loss is going to be the greatest, and we cannot right now tell you when power will be returned, consists primarily of the areas north of Devonshire and west of the 405. There are isolated spots throughout the city, not just in that North Valley area, that do not have water or power or both. But those 2 locations are the primary areas where we have both loss of water and power. With the issue of transportation, as you're aware, we have suffered major freeway damage in various parts of our city. Several of our surface streets have been damaged, buckled. We have gas main fires that have either been put out or still ablaze right now. Much of the city does not have traffic signals in place right now. And because of this, detours are being detailed throughout the city. Now and in the coming hours, we will have detailed maps as well as written descriptions, particularly for the media, to get out to all the people who live and work in the city where those detours will be. From a health standpoint, we're encouraging everyone who has water to boil your water for the next 24 hours as a precautionary measure. And if you do not have water and your water comes on at any point from now on, you should boil your water for at least 24 hours after water is returned to service. Message to the children and the parents who attend the Los Angeles Unified School District. Tomorrow, all public schools under the Los Angeles Unified School District will be closed. The school district is encouraging all of its staff members to make every attempt to please come to school, to look at the condition of the schools and prepare for the return of our children. The school closing is for several reasons. The lack of utilities in many of the areas where the schools are located, as well as where the children have to go to school. the inavailability of transportation, the lack of power, and some of our health concerns, and the fact that we still do not have traffic signals in a significant portion of our city, plus the fact that many of our schools are being used as shelters for those people who cannot or choose not to stay in their homes this evening. All City of Los Angeles employees are to report to work at their normal time tomorrow. All City of Los Angeles employees will report to work at their normal time tomorrow. To the private sector, we're asking all private businesses who can close tomorrow to remain closed. This will reduce the number of vehicles and people on our streets. This will reduce the congestion, particularly those intersections that do not have traffic control. This will help conserve our utilities, particularly our water and power. If you have a private business and you choose to open, we're asking you to stagger your opening times and stagger your closing times, and we're encouraging, wherever possible, to close to give your employees a chance to go home before it gets dark, because we do not know how close we will be to having power restored, particularly our traffic signals. The city has opened numerous shelters throughout the city of Los Angeles. We have other city managers here. Jackie Tatum from Parks and Recreation will talk to you about some of the locations of our shelters. But we just wanted to touch on these primary issues: water, power, transportation, health, schools, and encourage our employees, city employees, to come to work. One final comment that I have: a safety message to the men and women who live and work in our city. Please do not use candles in your homes. Please do not use candles in your homes. You could have gas escaping or other fumes that you're not aware of. Do not use barbecue grills as a source of heat or light because of the toxic fumes and the fire hazard. If you have water, please conserve the water. There are others that do not have it who could use it, or there are others that have it, and we need to spread it around. If you have a fireplace in your home, do not use your fireplace for the next few days. Many of our homes have received structural damage, particularly fireplaces which are attached to the exterior of our homes. Some fireplaces are on the second and third floor of our homes. We do not know what the damage to those homes are, and until you are sure that you have received no structural damage to your fireplace and your chimneys, do not use your fireplaces. And finally, if you have to drive on the streets of the city, approach each intersection as if it were a four-way stop sign. Remember, the large majority of our intersections do not have traffic controls. Remember, it could be your husband, your wife, your son, your daughter, your family member, your neighbor, or your child that's approaching from that other intersection. I and other members of the city government will be available to respond to specific questions, but I'm now going to turn it back over to the mayor. Oh, one other comment that I just want to make dealing with the safety issue and part of the curfew. There were some reports of looting early this morning and this afternoon. The department has made several arrests in the central area of the city, a few in the South Bureau, and a few in the Valley Bureau. We have currently in place since late morning, all of our officers are working 12-hour shifts. We have several hundred members of the Sheriff's Department on place, on safety patrol, on fixed assignments, and on aggressive uniform patrol throughout the city. And this will continue for the foreseeable future. We have also contacted the sheriff. Mutual aid is in place, and mutual aid will be coming into the city where we need it in the next several hours to put hundreds of additional officers from outside the city and other sources on fixed posts in our business, residential areas, around the areas where we use as outside shelters, as well as to support the men and women of the department. So right now, the department and our other agencies have things well under control, and our intent is to have the things remain under control. We're not going to allow any type of activity that occurred a year and a half ago to occur any place in the city of Los Angeles. It's going to be dealt with quickly, very swiftly, and very emphatically. If you try something, you're going to get arrested, you're going to go to jail. Thank you.
There have been a lot of questions on water and power systems, which the chief mentioned some of the very specific points, but I'd like to go into some more detail. These critical systems have sustained major damage. Though much of this damage can and is being repaired quickly by the Department of Water and Power, significant facilities have been severely damaged. We are still assessing the full scope of that damage. On the power side, the earthquake temporarily knocked out all 4 of our in-basin generating plants and also tripped our connections to all major sources out of the basin. For the first time in our history, the entire city was dark for some period of time after the quake. We have been able to start some of the in-basin facilities and hope to have more of these facilities back online tomorrow or late today. However, the in-basin plants at best provide only half of our total power supplies. For the rest of our supply, we rely on hydroelectric power from the Pacific Northwest and on other generating facilities from Nevada, Utah, and Arizona. Most of this power enters the basin in the North Valley, the facilities most badly impacted by the earthquake. The DWP crews are working hard to devise alternate means to import this power into the city, but the results of these efforts will not be known today. If they are successful, we will have sufficient generating capacity to serve customers in those parts of the city outside of the badly affected areas of the San Fernando Valley. Otherwise, we will have a shortage of power in many areas until alternative connections can be completed. The DWP cannot yet estimate the time needed to complete these repairs, but it has advised us that it could be more than a week before power is restored in the areas most damaged and as described by the chief. Numerous local distributing stations and power lines were damaged by the quakes. However, we cannot fully assess the damage to these facilities until power generation capacity has been restored. In essence, this means that we can't tell fully whether the light bulb works until the power is available to the plug. I might add also that Southern California Edison and other power suppliers have been helping with the city to solve our problems. On the water side, both of the city's aqueducts into the basin are out of service for some period of time. We have adequate reservoir capacity, as the chief mentioned, for 5 to 7 days, but we are encouraging people to conserve water supplies as much as possible. Additionally, until power is restored, we are unable to add chlorine to our water in the valley. So what the chief said about boiling water applies really just to the valley and mainly north of Sunset, and also in the Santa Monica Mountains before it is put into the main lines. As a precaution, we are urging people who live in the San Fernando Valley locations to boil water for drinking purposes. I cannot overemphasize the importance and good citizenship involved in conserving both water and power. I call on every Angelino to conserve. Regarding the firefighting situation, we can't say enough about our fire department. By late morning, they had all of the fires in the city under control. Chief Manning is here now to give you a more full report on the fire situation. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor. Well, this morning, as we, following the earthquake, as we viewed the task before us, it was overpowering, and we did what we have done so many times, and that is go to the Master Mutual Aid System, and we accessed through that through the Los Angeles County Fire Department, and we immediately had extra resources coming into the city. Not only did they come from LA County, but they also came from every fire department in the area, which then we've used all day long. Special search and rescue teams, firefighting companies, and we've put those into place. We're at a point now where we have the fires, basically all of the fires that were caused, except for a couple of natural gas fires, We've got those all out, that we're going to be releasing the resources back to the LA County, and then they'll be released from there back to their home cities. I can't overemphasize how important a resource that is for us and how quickly it comes. Chief Williams mentioned a couple of things in safety tips, and he talked about candles. And those are incredibly important because people use those. They carry them around the house. They set them too close to something flammable, and we have a house fire. And we don't want that to occur now. They use barbecues in a house because it's cold. They don't have any heat, and it seems good. Except barbecues using charcoal generate a tremendous amount of carbon monoxide, and it will kill them. And he mentioned about the chimneys, and people may think their chimney is good, and it may still be there, but they need to inspect it before they start a fire in it, because a crack usually will occur right.
You've been listening to LA City Fire Chief Donald Manning there. We're having a little bit of an audio problem. Here you're looking at people who are probably a little afraid to go back into their homes, if they have homes at this point, sleeping out in some of the parks, people gathering what goods they can carry in the plastic bags you see there and rolling up in their sleeping bag.
You know, Rick, before we go to Bev White, she's in the area there, let me just tell you, we have an identification now on the police officer who was killed early this morning, one of the first victims of the earthquake that we knew about. He's identified as Clarence W. Dean. He's 46 years old. He's with the Valley Traffic Division. You may remember he was on his way into work at 4:30 this morning when the quake hit. He was coming down the 14 freeway where it joins with the 5 and simply ran out of freeway, and in the dark didn't see it, ran right off the end of the freeway there. He's been ID'd. He's a motorcycle police officer with the LAPD, Clarence W. Dean, 46 years old.
I think it's safe to say all of our hearts go out to his family tonight. Here's a few things we want to recap for you tonight. Of course, you heard the mayor just a few moments ago talking about the dusk to dawn curfew that has gone into effect for the LA area. They're asking anybody that's on the streets to start getting it together and start heading home at this point. Also, a state of emergency, a local state of emergency has been declared by the mayor. He said earlier that he had also talked to President Clinton, who was also declaring a state of emergency here for the area. So that's in effect at this point. The LAPD has also been deployed. They are on a tactical alert. They are having extra patrols out on the streets. You will no doubt see a stepped-up presence throughout the area. Of course, tonight they mentioned earlier that there had been a little bit of a looting that has been put down, but they will be out there as well. The National Guard is also being deployed. You said earlier about 1,000 National Guard?
We had heard as many as 1,000 National Guard troops will be called in to help out with, we presumed at the time, looting situation. That's what the mayor thought they'd be doing. As well, you saw the sign there. There is a water shortage. Yeah. 2 of the aqueducts coming into the city here have been damaged, and all 4 of the in-basin generating plants have been damaged. We're going to go back to the news conference.
Down from both north and south.